Out Kicking It with Henri and Kevin, the live shopping show, you don't know what you've been missing. You simply can't afford to miss the show that brings the fun of Comic-Con right to your screen and the comics themselves conveniently to your front door. We're here 5 times a week, ready to engage with you on one of the hottest live sales platforms out there, the Comic Book Shopping Network, as well as all of our channels on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and more. This is our chance to stay connected and for you to buy all kinds of comics, including ones we create ourselves. That's right, we're creators too, and we've got deals on comics that won't break your wallet or your back. So be sure to check us out at these times right here and join the fight. And as Kevin and I always like to say, onward to victory.
Victory Seekers, you're watching Live with Henri, and I'm your host, Henri Compen. It is great to be here with you guys this week. I just got back from Challengers Comics in Chicago. I picked up all of these comics that came from their other shop, and tomorrow I'm going to be showcasing some of these comics on my show, Kicking It with Henri and Kevin, on CBSN tomorrow at what time is it going to be? These times are crazy, but if you saw the commercial at the front, which got aired too late, and we posted it on Facebook earlier. Be sure to check that out. We got great deals going on tomorrow. 25% off everything that we're going to be showcasing. That's a great deal. Great place to start. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We got a Halloween contest going on right now, folks. So if you are missing cons and you want to get dressed up and you want to like hang out and stuff, I am totally for that. And I incentivize it because that's the kind of Henri I am. And if you join us on that quest, if you send us your Halloween picture, your costume, or whatever, we will give you a free comic. I think that's a great deal. All right, so what do we got today? Today's guest is somebody I had to race here to meet because he's a very important guest. He is the event coordinator for an awesome event that is taking place in November that I am very honored to be a part of. It is called 101 Tales. And let me just tell you about this guy. This gentleman who is backstage right now has been a huge guiding light for me when it comes to getting into the business of live sales. His wife is the most outstanding artist, Mog Park. We had her on the show a couple weeks ago. Mog and another artist, another phenomenal artist, Anvu, they have banded together to put this huge event together, and they've brought talent together from all parts of the industry, and we're going to talk all about it right now. We're going to hype the heck out of this thing, and I really hope you guys are going to check it out because it's a free event. You guys, all you have to do is go to comicsplex.com. You've heard me talk about those guys before. Comicsplex, this is the place where it's the fastest growing comics social media platform out there right now, folks. Get on there, make yourself a profile, and let's talk to each other. Let's stay connected, and let's talk about the thing we love the most, comics. And without further ado, let's bring out our very special guest, Mr. Mel. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, man. What's up, everybody?
My man. We got a comment in here. Kitsune Windsor is saying hi, guys. Good to see you, Kitsune. All right, man. Well, welcome to the show. How you doing this afternoon?
Good. Thank you for having me on here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Well, before we go on any further, tell us all who you are and what you're doing.
And so my main job right now is that I manage the business for Mog Park. So we have this big event going on for November, like you probably know about already, 17th to the 21st of next month. It's 5 nights of storytelling that you're going to hear straight from the writers, right? So this is our way to try and create a more personal touch, closer to the experience that you get at the live cons, which we're all missing right now, right? But I've also wanted to spotlight the writers who don't get as much, you don't hear too much about. So they're going to be telling us their stories, their way. So you get to hear all these fabulous epic adventures that they're so passionate about, right? And who better to tell those stories than the writers themselves? So that's what we've got planned. We've got other things going, but that's our big event for this year.
Well, Mel, I just want to say, when everything with COVID started, and conventions were taken away, I was left with feeling the sense of purposelessness, which where you feel helpless. Like no matter what you do, you can't make any steps forward. Like it's just cement blocks. And
Right.
the reason why I felt like this is because I depend on live sales. I depend on these mass gatherings and everything. And suddenly I couldn't do it. But then a couple months went by, and I started interviewing creators and other people in the business and learning from them and sharing their experiences with everybody. And as I've been learning, I came across, Mog's, what Mog and you guys have been doing on the Artist Alley Shopping Network, and seeing how you guys are still making an active effort to engage people. And me as a writer was so inspired by this that I totally got what you were doing. And I was like, cool. So I really love that, you decided to take this idea of, we want to give the writers a chance to stand out. And what made you want to showcase writers? I mean, you're working with an artist. You guys have a completely different business model. Why help out the writers?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to have to go back a little bit. So I've been in this industry for like a long time. The short story is that I've been a collector since the early 70s. Right? And I've had my own retail stores. I actually had two of them that I ran for 16 years that started in the late 1980s. Right? And during that time, the first time I went to the San Diego Comic Con was like 1985. And I went to that show for all the way to 2006. Straight, never missed a show. I started out as a fan, going there as a fanboy. Then I started going there as a dealer, right? And then I had my own production company, actually two of them, that I co-managed with another friend of mine, another artist friend, this guy named Cedric Nokon, who had worked his way up into Image, Marvel, and so forth. Right? So we were producing comic books where we could. Most of it was independent. Probably none of it that we can hear about, because I don't even hear these companies existing anymore. So anyway, so during that time, right, I always saw that the artists got a lot of the attention. And they always are. They're like the quarterback of the team. You've got your editor, you've got your writer, you've got your colorist, your inker, your letterer, and then you got your post-production dude that's got to prepare everything before they send it off to the printers. That was the process then, and it still pretty much holds true. Okay, but during that time, it's always been the artist, right? And not to take anything away, because part of telling a great story is you need to have that artist that can lead you through the story and to tell its tale, right? So it's only now recently that we're starting to see the writers get more of their due. They have gotten it in the past. They just haven't gotten it as much. Like when Alan Moore came onto Swamp Thing, right? We were exposed to something that was totally new, totally different. Writing this adult book from a book that was just flailing in the winds, and then all of a sudden it gets promoted to the top of the list. And so once in a while we'll get things like that'll happen in the industry, right? So this is my way of just trying to elevate it more. And I was also thinking of a way, well, if we're gonna do a con, right? And it's all about the personal touch that you can bring to it. In any kind of business these days, it's all about the personal touch. You want to make the connection with the consumer, in this case, the collector. And what can you do to do that, right? Looking at all the other shows, and we've done a couple small ones ourselves to kind of like test the waters. And we saw that a lot of it is geared towards to try and emulate exactly what was going on to the comic shows, the live ones. And we know that's not going to work, right? You're not going to gain that kind of experience or bring that personal touch. You have to change it. So this is still kind of like in a test phase. This is our way of testing out to see if this will work. So at the end of 101 Tales, we'll evaluate to see what worked out and what didn't. What can we do to improve it, and see where we can take it from there. if anything, COVID's made us realize that this is a resource that we haven't really tapped as much into as we should. And so even when COVID dies down, I don't think this is going to go away, but this will supplement everybody else that's out there trying to make a buck in this industry, whether you're a writer, an artist, or whatever it is that you do. Okay, so that was the idea. This is something that On and I were touching on when we had done another show, and then we did one of our own, just a small one with our group that was called Once Upon a Time. Now this is expanding on that in a much bigger scale, and again, we're still taking small steps, right? So as this continues, you'll see it continue to grow. We'll add on additional things, make it bigger and better, but we're still kind of like testing the water. So it is a big step from where we were before, but we found that it is manageable, and we're hoping to see everybody there and enjoy the show.
You know what, Mel, I want to say is that I love your philosophy so much, because I agree with you. And what's really cool about this is that, having been working in live sales now for about a month, I would say that the first couple weeks were really hard, because you're making mistakes, you're falling
Mm-hmm.
flat on your face, you don't know what you're doing, and there's a major disconnect, because when you're in person, people can respond to you, you can hear them, there's a conversation going.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you're doing live sales, people call it as they see it. That's a kind of like a little gimmicky term I came up with, but and it just came out on the fly, because you have to make sure that you're getting people's attention and that they they can feed off of your energy. But then after that happens, there's this point where you have to interact with them. And I remember I had this moment on Monday when I just realized I finally understood this platform, and it felt like I was back at the convention scene. But then when you look at the schematics of how everything works and how inventory moves and how the system has changed, everything is different now. And I agree with you 100% when you say that even when COVID dies down, that this is going to be something that is going to be there for a long time. And I can see 101 Tales being a yearly event. I mean, it feels that big to me. And the fact that it has this emphasis, this is like the future Dragon Con, guys. This is the kind of thing that you're not going to be able to do this kind of stuff normally, even at conventions, because when artists are at home or writers are at home, we have access to so much more stuff that we don't do when we go to conventions. When we're at conventions, right, we just have what's on our backs, the books that we ship out in prints or whatever. And once we sell through it, we got nothing else to talk about. Here, you can bring on writers that you're working with, artists that you're working with. You can show people, production, the production process better. There's so many things you can do now, and I think it's really great that you decided let's give back. Let's do something to help other people.
Yeah, exactly. That's like I said, I've been in business a long time, and I know that. If you help people, right, it will come back. So there's no payoff to on this event for us. We don't charge anything. We're not charging the artists to have a spot. We're not charging guests or fans to come in to pay anything. There's no cost to this, right? So the people that are backing this up, especially the Comixplex, they're sacrificing a lot to get this on, right? Same thing with all the writers and all that, because that does take time. But in the long run, we hope to create that kind of experience. We're also creating a community with the creators that are signing on here. We've got a few things planned where they'll be able to have their own time and mingle with each other. But they're already mingling already. As they're following our announcement videos, as they're following our interviews, they're seeing who's on there, and they're talking to each other. So I talked to guys like Joshua Pantelaresco, and if you go on his Facebook feed, he's got a little activity going on there. But now when you look at it now and you see who else is responding there's a lot of guys that are from 101 Tales, whether they're the creative writers or the fans that are interacting with it. So there's like a group following that follows, that's been following along with everybody. And now even though we've got a few spots left to fill, not much, but pretty confident we'll probably fill it in this week already.
Hey man, give me a call. I'll send you a whole bunch of people you got to have on 101 Tales.
There is a lot. This is the cool thing is this is by invitation only, right? So and the reason for that is that I'm trying to get like a wide variety, a wide mix of people in there. So I've got directors, I've got authors, novelists, writers, comic book writers in here, and I'm not just keeping it domestic, but it's coming from around the world. So we got people from Norway, Poland, possibly Poland, UK, Australia, Canada, Puerto Rico. So as far as we can reach for now, and they're all coming from all walks of life, right? There isn't anybody that we're denying. I'm trying to show a very diverse quality of people, as well as stories. Right. Want to be able to touch on everything. I know I can't touch everything on 100%, but that's our goal, to try and get in there as much as we can. It really feels good to be in touch with the community, with these writers, and get closer to the projects that they're doing, because some of them they may not be getting as much light as they deserve, and this is one way to elevate them too, so that way they do get more attention, and everybody will get a chance to hear their fantastic stories, and actually be able to talk with them. They'll have that opportunity as well.
Yeah, I agree, and this is who I think this is really going to benefit is the people who have not been exposed to this kind of work yet. One of the things that I've agreed to do on my slot with 101 Tales is to share it with Kitsune Windsor, who is a writer and creator who is suffering from muscular dystrophy. And this is a big push for him. Anybody who's watching, this is a big push for a creator like this, because there's no way he's ever going to be able to do a store signing. There's no way he's ever going to be able to go to a convention. He can't move. I know him personally, her personally. I'm sorry, and we have a history, so we've known each other a long time, and she has worked so incredibly hard to get to where she is right now, and she needs somebody to push her stuff. So who better than the greatest showman in modern comics than me? So when I come on 101 Tales, I'm going to battle for Kitsune Windsor, and I'm going to sell a ton of her books, because they should be in people's hands. And normally we can't do that kind of stuff. So it's one of those things where I'm excited about the event, because I have time right now to prepare for it. And you guys have really laid the groundwork. And Mel, you've also been somebody that when I was getting my start, I came and I talked to you, because your philosophy, it's very sound, and it actually works. In all the years that I've been doing business and comics, it's all about integrity. When you make a promise to somebody, you got to keep it. And not everything's always going to work out the way you envision it. Sometimes things can get in the way. But if you come in with each time with the intent to do your best, and you stick to what principles you have to, you're gonna impress people. And I think that's what you're doing right now. But I want to dig a little bit deeper, because we know this is going to happen. We know this event's awesome, but I want to know who this event coordinator is. You tell me, how'd you get into comics in the first place? What was it like running your own shop? I'm just curious for my own knowledge.
Wow. Okay. So, see, I'm a military brat, and I think we were flying to the Philippines at this time from Hawaii, and I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do on this 13-hour long flight that I had to get on? And we were flying on a C-130. It was going to be hot as hell. There's no air conditioning there, and you're sitting in these like parachute seats, right? And you get strapped in, and they kind of swing and sway a little bit. You're not allowed to get out of them because it was totally unsafe. And I didn't know what to what to do. I had already packed a bunch of food that I wanted to snack on, and there's no movies. You know, you could get, and the food was very limited. Um, so I go, man, what else am I going to do? So I picked up a few comics. I think it was like Thor and Captain America, and I really dug on the Thor, and that was issue, I believe, 223. It had Firelord in it, and I thought, wow, this was actually pretty cool. Now, up to that point, I did not really enjoy reading at all, but that's what got me started into reading, and then from there, I was reading all kinds of stuff into my teenage years and into my adult life. I love fantasy, just like Mog does. I love reading military about military stuff. But anyway, so that's how I got into comics. Right? Then I moved to California. That was in Hawaii. I moved to California, and I was still collecting comics big time. McFarlane and all those guys were like the big hit at the time in the mid '80s. And then I hooked up with this one guy. I was actually starting to subscribe my comics from this one shop in Northern California, and I forgot what the name of the place is. But the guy that did that is still actually around as a dealer. I see him at Frank and Son, San Diego, and a lot of the other local shows here in California. But he had this letter that you could write into, and you could tell who you are and how you got into comics. So I did that. And this one guy actually responded to it. He actually wrote to me. Back then, it felt kind of safe to go ahead and put your address in there, and it's not something that you would do now. But he actually responded to me and told me about all the cons that were going on. All I knew was about San Diego, right? And he brought me around to the Orange County Comic Con, to the LA. It's called the LA Science and Comic Book Show, and some other small shows, right? And I saw what these guys had and what they were selling, and I had all that and more, right? I had all the biggies. So when I first showed up as a dealer and I put that stuff out, I was just getting swarmed, and I go, wow, this is pretty good. And at that time, I had a really good paying job. I was in IT at the time, but I was having so much fun doing that. I quit that job and I became a dealer. It took about 5 years to turn that around where I could have a positive cash flow. So it took exactly as long as they advised that it would take. And it was hard at first, but we got through it. So that's how I became a dealer, and then eventually led to having a couple stores. I had one store called Comic Rage in Alhambra, and then Comics Etc. out in West Covina. And then we all went through the whole, got into magic, did really good on that. I was one of the #1 dealers in the country, if not in the world.
How do you make money on? I'm just curious, just being new to the dealer game. I know that being on CBSN where all the dealers are talking to each other. One of the things that they were talking about the other day was trading card games, because not trading card games, role-playing games, tabletop, whatever. I'm sorry, I've just never been into it, but apparently a lot of stores survive just on this platform alone. So where does the money mainly come through? Is it from people buying decks? Is it from tournaments? What is it that how do dealers make profit on that?
It's for me at that time, it was mainly off the singles, right? So I was kind of lucky. First of all, I wasn't into that kind of game playing. That was totally new for me. But I knew people that were into it. So I reached out to this one comic book store that I had frequent before, and I called him up and I talked to him. And he told me to come in and he'd show me how to play and how the game works and everything, right? And the game was totally new. It's just totally new, right? And but I was looking for something different to do to expand my businesses aside from comics and toys at that time. I went down there, I learned it. I bought, after that, I bought one case of starter decks, sold through that, kept that money separate. Okay. From there, I just kept buying. I bought another case, sold through that, and I kept the magic money all to itself, right? My business got developed just from buying that one case. That's all I ever put into it, right? But I started going around to the other shops, meeting the other players, and seeing like if I could buy cards off of them, right? And I did. I started selling singles. I was making money off of it that way. These guys were so loyal to me. Out of all the collecting people that I've dealt with, the gamers are the ones, at least during that time, were the most loyal. I would have dealers coming up to these guys trying to buy their stuff, offering them much more money than I was going to pay for them. But they wouldn't do it. Not one of them broke. But these guys constantly sold me stuff at such a good price that I could turn around, make a fair amount of money on it, keep them happy, keep my customers happy, and the business just boomed. And I think that's how you make it in cards, right? Because the same thing with sports cards, right? They're breaking the decks up, finding their rare cards, selling those. All right, they're finding out ways how to search those packs, search the boxes. Same thing with Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever it is. Right? They figured it out, right? And they'll bust the card boxes up to get those things. So that's basically how you make it in cards.
That's interesting. So going back to the whole dealing thing. So in the dealer game, and one thing that I think is really cool is the honor among us, other dealers. Like, I feel like a lot of the other dealers want to help each other succeed. I mean, obviously there's competition in some cases, but for the most part, I've noticed that every dealer that I've reached out to, ever since I decided to take on that outfit, has been extremely supportive to both me and my partner, and it's really cool to see that. So you had two shops, and what happened? Like, what did you just decide to get out of the game?
Yeah, I decided that it was time, right? So the funny thing is this, right? Because we had just eBay had come into the picture like in the late 90s, right? And we were making a killing, right? It was ridiculous the kind of money. You could sell a broken sink on eBay and it would sell. I would see these broken hand lawnmowers and people were actually buying them. I couldn't understand it, but you know, I was like putting out things I was getting like really, really cheap, like $5-10, and it was possible that you could sell them for like over $100, and so it was crazy. Crazy money going on there. I remember like the Danger Girl sets for what's his name? Anyway, those sets were coming out, and I was putting those sets out at I think it was like $80, and there's like 3 sets in a box, and compared to what they cost us, right? And we were making 3 times our money on them, and that was ridiculous. And I was lucky enough that I had like a lot of those, and they would just every time I'd be putting up a case at a time, and they'd just be selling right away like crazy. So it was at that time. It's like you couldn't get like enough inventory. Yeah, you know what, dude? I even forgot. Like, what question am I answering here?
Well, no, I'm curious to know. I mean, it's all fascinating stuff to me, but I'm wondering, like, so you saw that things were moving with eBay. Did you like we all kind of like switch over to things for different reasons, like there's a time to jump in and there's a time to jump out.
Okay.
Having a storefront, yeah. Like, what made you decide, like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I was kind of like already thinking about getting out at that time, but we were going. That's when the economy got really bad, and we could see it coming. We saw, like in the later '90s, that real estate was just skyrocketing like crazy, right? And I've been like an investor on the side, right? And I kept talking to my partner about that. Man, this is going to be a bubble that's going to bust, right? I didn't understand what was going on at that time, why prices were like escalating so crazy like that, right? And but I knew it wasn't like a good thing. And it took a while for that bubble to burst, but man, when it did, it was a big burst, right? So in 2005, I just started. I talked to my partners, and I told them that I think it's going to be time for me to pull out. I just want to get out already, because after 2000, I was making enough money to stay afloat, but I wasn't making anything above that. So I was kind of like thankful for that. And I could see that it was going to get worse. So I said, well, before I really fall into the black, maybe now is a good time to pull out. Because I could see that discretionary money that everybody had during those years was just going to disappear. It was going to go away. And that's kind of basically what happened, because right after that, we saw the industry fall to one of its lowest times. I thought it was bad when Marvel was going through its shape during in the mid 90s, when we saw that stock fall down to $2. I kick myself now for not buying that back then. But yeah, I can see that happening. Now, the funny thing is this. I got out in 2006. I met Mog in 2005, right? And she had joined, well, she was trying to come onto the production company that we had running then. But she was still kind of raw. But I kind of like took her on and kind of like guided her. And then all of a sudden we got this relationship thing going between her and I. And she wanted to stay in, right? And I said, oh man, so she kind of like pulled me back in, but we didn't get back into it until later. It wasn't until we kind of toyed around with it in 2008, but we kind of came back into it in 2010. Right? And then she landed the job with Game of Thrones that was 2012. So I was out of it from 2006 to 2012, right? And there was a lot of changes in the industry on how things were done. San Diego Comic-Con went through some big changes. The industry went through some changes. The way how things were done was also changed. There was a lot of new companies there that I was not familiar with. I had to get familiar with again to see who we would want to approach to get work. So the reason why I had got out in Sunrise is that because the economy wasn't looking really shoddy, and I just felt that it was going to be time. It was time. I didn't know that I was going to get pulled back in by Mog.
Well, you know what I think is interesting about all this is the fact that your experience in comics and your skills applies in so many different pockets. Like being a dealer, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of creativity involved with that because there's a lot of marketing that goes into it.
Yeah.
The same thing goes into managing an artist's, profile and everything. And not only that, what you're doing with 101 Tales. So what kinds of experiences did you have throughout your career that you're now bringing to the table with 101 Tales to make this like so strong? You've done it. I just want to say you've done a really great job of building up this event, and we're still not even we're still quite a ways away from it going. But you're on the most aggressive campaign trail. It's like, push your politics aside. Pay attention to 101 Tales, folks. This is the thing that's going to be rocking your November, and that's the truth. I mean, it's just the way you've been pushing it. And, I'm just curious, like, how does you've survived? And here's another thing I want to comment on is what you were telling me just now is how you've learned to adapt in situations of crisis, which is something we can anticipate happening once every 10 years, sometimes even less. Like every year is a crisis, and it's how we adapt and how we learn to survive with the changes that are going on. Like a year ago, Diamond was the premier distributor. Now
Yeah.
they don't distribute for DC anymore. DC's moving on to somebody else. That's changing the game. That's changing everything. Some of these other micro publishers like Scout, Vault, SourcePoint, they weren't making as much of an impact in comic shops as they are now. Like now, so many comic shops want to carry their stuff and can't get their hands on it. So obviously there have been changes, and you've been the kind of guy who is always kind of like paying attention to what's going on and how to stay on top of it and how to keep it fresh. So where does that come from? I'm sorry I didn't give you a chance to talk, and I'm just so amazed. I could talk to you for hours about this stuff.
Oh yeah. It's I came from a background with no marketing experiences at all, but I've learned along the way, right? But I also had a really big help, right? So, like I said, like I had mentioned earlier, that I was dabbling in investments, and I had some good help in that. I had this one guy that just really educated me on what to invest in, how to time it, and so forth. And marketing was kind of like that too. I ran into this guy. His name was Randall Evanson. One of the he's a top marketing guy in the country that makes well over a six-figure income. And I just got lucky. At that time, this was in the early 90s, I was putting out this kind of thing called investing in comics, kind of like a prospectus, like you would get for like a mutual fund or something like that. I had modeled it along that line with graphs and factors, why this is going to go up, what you should look for, and so forth. And he actually saw that, picked one of those up, because I would just distribute them for free. They weren't, I wasn't like trying to sell them or anything. But he saw that in this place called Jeffrey's Comics, which was a very well-known comic book store in the LA area, and it still is. My information was in there, and he called me up, and we had a long conversation about comics and investing in comics and how you can make money on it. And he saw, or I gave him examples like what it was of what I was doing and how I made money on it. And like at that time, the big books were like cable. Right. Why did I have over 1,000 copies of Unions 85? Things like that. And then I had a big stock of Ghost Rider and a lot of like all these other key books. Right. How did I know how to do that before it even happened? So I shared that information. Right. And with that, he told me how I could market this investing in comics and how I could make money off of that. So I tried it his way, and it actually worked. So now I was getting, I think it was like $150, which I didn't think was possible. You could subscribe to this newsletter, Investing in Comics, for $150 a year. And it was selling, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So that guy taught me a lot about marketing, right? And he continued to teach me along the way, and I've learned to him. I always draw back on the experience, and he told me some key things as to that marketing is actually very simple. And if you fall down on these three things, then you can do well, right? But it does take time to build your base, and not everything is always going to be an explosion. And so that's where I got that. I was able to use that with our stores, with doing shows, because at that time we were doing like 4 shows every month, which is like every weekend. And there was a show somewhere that you could do. I was going as far as like Washington, Arizona, even did a few trips out to Chicago at that time. But there was a lot on the West Coast we could do. I didn't have to travel that far. Right? And I could take those skills and work it. I remember this one time I did, it was called the East Coast Comic Con. And it's this guy from the East Coast, from New York. Because there's a string of shows out in, I think his name is Fred Greenberg, but he's doing a string of shows on the West Coast. And I got in at every show, and I was helping the lady that was doing it, and she was really nice to me. So she gave me always like first choice of where I wanted my tables. I was getting like 2 or 3 tables at the time, and I was killing it at their shows. I was doing really well. But there was this one particular show in Sacramento that I did. Right, I went into that show, made a good amount of money that day. It was just a 1-day show. Everybody in that show, all the other dealers made nothing, not a single penny. Right? And it was all because of the way how I had set up presentation-wise, the way how just the way how things looked and everything. And that's when I knew that the skills that I had learned had been like really tested. Right? Now they don't always work all the time, and it's always going to be different from show to show. But I was pretty confident in my skills by that time that I could take this anywhere and apply it. So I'm applying that here now with 101 Tails. You can see that we try to do things differently. Our announcements are done live stream. You're going to start seeing more interviews. You're going to start seeing more ads. We're just going to bombard the internet as much as we can, but hopefully we don't overdo it. We'll test that part out. But it's also just trying something new and different from what's being out there to get everybody's attention, and make it more personal as well. Still reaching for that personal touch, not just with the fans, but with the creatives that we brought on board. Right. So that's basically what we got going for 101 Tails as far as marketing goes. There's other things going on as well, but you'll see that as it comes into play as we get closer. Probably real soon. Then we're pretty much into November.
Well, that's something that I wanted to touch on is, the methods you guys have been using to bring on these videos. And I love that you're using the word bombard, because that's what I think this is all about. If you want to you're going to do and you're going to do better. You may not do as great as you would at, say, a live event where, everything is happening at a much faster pace, but doing something is better than doing nothing. And what I gathered from my interview with Mog a couple of weeks ago was that you've always been the guy that is ready to jump on everything. You have what us Jews would call chutzpah. You go out there and you go after it. And it's never a hesitation for you. Jumping into the dealing game is really just as simple as it sounds, jumping in. And the same thing with marketing. But, I've been thinking about that as you said it, because, even with sales and marketing, I've had no experience prior to what I do now, teaching me how to do this. A lot of it, I think, is natural. And that's what I think makes it so special, is the fact that these aren't skills that can be taught. These are skills that are inherited by your own experiences of, being a part of a certain environment. When it comes to me selling comics, I sell comics the way I would want comics to be sold to me, the way Stan Lee did it. He would get it. He would literally grab them and shake them in your face and be like, this is the greatest stuff ever. And, that's what always worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody,
Well, you're never ever going to satisfy everybody 100%. No. So you got to try what you can, right? So, Mog says that I'm just like a go-getter, and I am, right? Every job that I've had, I've always gone and get it, and it's always about the numbers, right? And so even here, when you're trying to do things, and the reason why I am a go-getter, I'll just try it. I do think about it to see if it's going to be worthy or not, and I've had my shortcomings as well. Okay, so, but I've always felt I don't have the fear of failure. Right, and failure is even the wrong word, but for a lack of a better word, I use the word failure, right? Because you're going to try something, right? See if it works. That's the only way you're going to know, right? You might try 10 different things to find the one thing that works, or maybe 20 or 30, or like if you listen to Todd McFarlane, he's got all those rejection letters, and you just keep trying, and that's what it is. It's just a numbers game. You got to keep trying. Eventually, something's going to hit. something's going to stick, and then you know that you can run with it, right? But you're never going to find that out unless you don't try, you know. So you got to try, right? Let me give you another example. Like when this COVID thing hit, right? And we were trying to, even before the COVID thing hit, we were trying to do Twitch, right? So we got Mog on there and Twitch because everybody was saying, oh, you got to try Twitch, you know, that should be great for the artists. People are doing like pretty well. Well, it did have its time there for the artists, but then it kind of like ran out, and we came in at the tail end, and that wasn't a good time, right? So that got me not wanting to get on the internet and do anything at all. Okay, but we were part of Ron Zabala and his Mount Olympus, and he was going to do his mock con. Said, all right, you know, we'll get on there, we'll support the guy, and that didn't think nothing of it, right? Yeah, sure, we'll show some of our stuff to sell it. I didn't put hardly any effort into it at all. But then we did it, and we made some money. Going, huh, that wasn't bad at all, right? So that changed my thinking that you could actually do something on the internet. So we started increasing our presence there, right? So in a way, that was kind of like by accident, but it's you just don't know until you try, right? So we went from trying it in Twitch, where we were kind of like excited about it, and then trying this MockCon where we were kind of like reluctant about, and we came out of that and go, wow, okay, let's do that. Okay, that looks like it's pretty good. So it can change, and it will take that time. Sometimes you have to try it in different ways. So we have like drawing bid now that we do monthly on with Mog, right? And you know, it's still a small show, but every time we do it, it gets bigger in some way. Everything that gets put up there gets a bid. Everything gets sold 100%. That was by accident as well. Somebody brought up an old anime show that I used to watch in the 70s called Princess Knight. And it's a girly show, right? I liked it because I was impressed with the art. It was totally different. Manga, it was a manga style, which I didn't realize it was. That's what it was at that time. But I was going, wow, the coloring is great. The artwork is great. This is a great show. You know, I got teased about it all the time because it was, you know, a girly show. I didn't care. So anyway, these guys were brought it up, and I said, well, okay, why don't we just for fun just draw Princess Knight? And everybody did, and we had a good time at it. And then I said, well, why don't I try to make it worthwhile for these guys? You know, they'll draw it, we'll put it up for auction and see what happens. Even if it just goes for $5, it's all for fun. And that's how that started, right? So, you know, sometimes you got to try things, and it will lead you into areas that you don't know about that could do something exciting and great. So I just announced this last drawing bid ended this past Sunday. And after that, I announced like what the next one was going to be. And mainly it's, you know, you give them a cue. So on this one, it's going to be Final Fantasy. And the post is just kind of like lit up. People are still talking about it. They're all excited about like what they can expect to see from the group of artists that are in there. And that event is open to everyone and anyone that wants to participate. Okay, so just come on over to Mark's Facebook page, check that out, and see how you can do that. It's you know, pretty easy to do. Okay.
And I love how you and Mog kind of work off of each other. You guys have such a great chemistry. You know, well, I mean, look, there's a lot of people who can be married, like, and just can't work together. Like my wife and I, that's a perfect example. Like, I love my wife to death. I love my wife so much, Mel. I married her 3 times. I will not, even if I get divorced, I'm not marrying anybody ever again in my entire life. All right, it's done.
Yeah. That's the same thing I told Mog. You know, this is the last one for me.
Exactly. It's
I don't want to go through this again, right? And I'm reading like who's on here, like Robin. She's a really close friend of ours, and she knows like how our relationship was. Mog and I fight a lot. Okay.
Well, you know, I
fight a lot, but
I think all
at the end of the day, you know, we know how we feel, and we make up pretty fast. Before it might take some time, but right now we make up pretty fast. You know, I laugh at that because it is a struggle. I see other couples out there, and they seem like it's pretty easy, but you never see like what's behind like closed doors and stuff. You know,
never.
We're trying to make a go for it.
Well, but that's the thing, though. That's what I was trying to say is, my wife and I, we can't sit in the same room together when we're working, like, because we both have jobs that require high levels of concentration, and we both distract each other because she always wants to talk to me, and I'm always like, editing or something, and I'm like, dude, I gotta like work, and
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things where she doesn't understand what I do, and I don't really understand what she does. I mean, we kind of support each other to the best of our ability, but it's really nice to see two people who are married together, who are with each other around the clock. And I know that you prepare these exquisite meals for Mog. She shares pictures from time to time, and it makes me realize just how creative you can be, when you're cooking. But coming back to just what you guys are doing on Artist Alley, on the Artist Alley Shopping Network, I think it's really cool. Just tuning into your show, you're interacting with a lot of the people who are watching, and she's doing the same thing. But the fact that you're there allows her to focus on the actual art aspect of what she's bringing to the table and having a conversation, and it's a really great dynamic. I think your show is phenomenal, and I learned a lot from it too.
Yeah, the cooking, that's like my zen. That's where I go, and I just kind of like calm down, and I do my cooking, whatever it takes and stuff. But that's like my zen, where I can like find some peace and just kind of just do my thing. Yeah, but yeah, that's cool. I like doing that.
So, kind of like as we're kind of like winding down to the end of this episode here, I'm curious to also know, as you're like, where do you see things going in the future? Because you've been through a lot of stuff. You got into the game as a fan of comics, and I think that's probably where a lot of your marketing experience and a lot of your go-getterness kind of like is amplified. And you've seen these transitions in the business, and you're on top of it. Let's just be honest here. I mean, you're way ahead of the game, way ahead of the curve, and I think you're 100% right. I'm even telling you right now, even when conventions come back, there's going to be I'm probably going to scale back regardless of how normal things come to be, because there's so much more opportunity in live sales through social media than there is having to lug around stuff, having to waste money and time on setting up at conventions. And don't get me wrong, I'll still be at conventions, but at a different capacity.
Right.
Things change, and you have to adjust with the times. Like, I'll be honest with you, my dealer outfit, I thought it was over. Like we were setting up at shows and no one was buying any of the stuff that we had for sale, because we were selling the same exact stuff that everybody else was selling. So it was really hard to kind of like stay fresh. It was only because of what we're in right now that I was kind of able to get into the position that I'm in. It's because of my dealer outfit. So sometimes we think that something is over and done with, but it's not that we failed or that we've given up or that we quit. It's just that we've moved on. We've focused on different priorities. Like before, I was focusing on just writing comics. Well, now I'm not just writing comics anymore. I'm selling comics. So it's really interesting to see how we can evolve. So just as I'm just curious to know what do you think? Where do you think the future? What do you think is in the future? I could see like a total virtual experience where people literally put on glasses and see us like in person, and we can interact. Like I think the only thing that's missing now is that voice. We can talk to each other on the fly as we're doing stuff on social media. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. I think that's where it's going. The fact that look what we're doing here. We're broadcasting, right? Having our own channel here, and it is in a way. It's all this seems to be moving towards closer to a free market in a way, right? Because we're able to do what we want. We don't need the big guys to make these big moves anymore. We can do it with, so we don't need to be with Marvel or DC to make it big. You can do it on your own. Like guys like Brian Perito or the guy Cyber with the Cyber Frog, things like that, right? And we're able to bring these elements and this technology into our business. So the market is definitely changing. I'm not sure like where it's going to go because it's totally brand new. We've never seen anything like this before. What shape or form that is, right? The brick and mortar stores are going out. I hope they don't go completely out because I love going to a comic book store. We've got the development of these broadcast apps that we use now. I don't think they're where they need to be yet, so I think there's going to be some development in that. There's going to be more people developing more books, more streaming channels, whether it's they're using StreamYard or YouTube or Zoom or whatever that will be. So it's yet to see exactly where we're going to go, what shape things are they're going to go. I think there will be more attention towards writers, right? Because they're the guys that are putting out these campaigns. Right? And not to take anything away from the artists because they'll still be popular, but and that's one reason why we went the route with the 101 Tales to Take the Writers. That's another facet that we want to kind of jump on before it exploded. So yeah, it's pretty much like up in the air to see where all this going. We're going to see a mixture of everything that we've done, and you'll see. The online cons will probably get better online and be able to provide a more personal experience and not just be like a money grab like some of the cons tend to be right now.
That's what I like so much about Comixplex, and I think it's so great that you guys have partnered up together to bring 101 Tales to everybody because, Adam Monblad, who runs that, is doing a really phenomenal job of a great atmosphere where we can all come together and learn and have fun and trade and talk and do stuff without all the bickering, without all the stuff that we tend to see on social media. This is a safe zone right here to get away from the news and to get away from that.
Right. Yeah, we try to avoid all that. No negative stuff on our feeds or anything like that. That's like business elsewhere. We don't need that here. Yeah, and nobody wants to do that here. That's all for something else. So we got to keep it all positive, right? Because we're still trying to figure things out. So you need everyone as much as you can, and we've got to learn to accept each other for who we are, what we are, no matter what walk of life we do. Because we all live here on this planet. Why do you want to diss somebody? Because they're different. We are all different to begin with, right? We should appreciate everybody's differences. That's my philosophy. Appreciate everybody's differences. They're all still exactly the same. And how fun would that be? Doesn't sound like fun at all.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree more. And I just want to say that's a great way to end everything that you're saying here is, that this is what 101 Tales is. It's a diverse event. It's bringing together creators from all spectrums, from all levels of comics and entertainment and, all television directors, everything. It's all under one roof. This is like your, South by Southwest on, is it South by Southeast? What is the FX20 event, the big event that keeps getting canceled? The big media push event. Yeah. It's now being turned into something way more grassroots, way more special. And like Mel said, you don't need the mainstream guys. We don't need the mainstream guys in order to bring you guys new stuff, and entertain you guys. So Mel, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. You've had so much great stuff to share with us. I'm going to give you a moment. Tell us exactly where we can find you, where we can follow you, where we can stay connected.
So you can find me on Facebook under MEL GOMDORI, but the best place for you to find my content, because that's actually with Mod Park, look for Mod Park and you'll see our stuff there. I'm more the guy that works behind the scenes, to setting things up, going to the cons, creating the events, and deciding where we're gonna go. So you can direct your questions to me at MEL GOMDORI there. If you're looking for the more of the art side, then you can go to modbook.com. Watch for our event November 17th to the 21st. We've got 101 tales, 5 nights, being told by some of the most passionate writers that you will ever meet. Right. Later on today, in about 1 hour, we will have the launch for Mog's latest cover for Spectrus and Sabanian. Take a look at that. It is a tarot card cover, and there will be additional tarot cards introduced in that. So you don't want to miss out on that. And you also find me telling my own tale in 101 Tales. So I have my own story to tell there. But you'll hear it also on Trip Week. If you haven't checked into that, that's running the week before our own event with an indie event. That's with Meredith Longrun. So take a look at that. Also, you'll see me hosting a launch for Zing Zin, who has his own book of symphonic verses. That will be next week, Monday, November 2nd. So pay attention to the launch for that as well. And be sure to check out Mont Park every Sunday on Artist Alley Shopping Network, 6 o'clock p.m. Don't forget our other event, monthly event, Draw and Bid. That's already been announced for, I believe, November 29th. Get the story on that. Anybody can participate. The theme this time is Final Fantasy. Anything goes on that. Submit your work. We'll put it up for auction. You collect all the money on that and ship it out yourself. All right. All that for free for you guys. All right.
That's
Thanks,
excellent.
guys, for having me on board. Appreciate the time in the future.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, too. Do me a favor. If you have a minute, hang out backstage. I'm just going to close out real quick. I'd love to have, like, a final word with you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you so much again. It's I learned so much today, and I think all of our guests did as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. You guys have a good time. Relax, kick back, enjoy the rest of the week. Shaka to my brothers in Hawaii. Woo.
Yeah, that's right. Aloha, man. All right, cool. Mahalo, right? Did I say it right? All right, right on. All right, I'll be right there. Well, there you have it, folks. That's Mel. Mel is the man, and make sure that you start paying attention to everything related to 101 Tales, because I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a crazy event, and you're going to want to be a part of this. I will be back tomorrow, guys, on CBSN, twice tomorrow, okay? So tomorrow I'm on at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Mountain time, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBSN. Then later in the evening, I'm going to redress my rack, and I'm coming on board with my cohort, Kevin Hines, and we're going to do another show in the evening. It starts at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to have 2 racks tomorrow, 3 racks tomorrow, all new stuff from Challengers Comics, stuff from other people's collections. I'm mixing it up. I'm doing deals that can't be beat. You guys come and hang out, sell you some comics, get them in your hands, and we're going to have a good time. And hold on, something weird is going on here. Uh-oh.
Hi, I'm Ted Sikora, not Henri Compen doing a voiceover. This is 100% legit Ted Sikora coming at you right now to let you know that if you buy my books, there is a slight chance that I will buy dinner for both Henri and Kevin, but don't count on it. You can, however, count on my books being worth your hard-earned money, and they all come signed by me, Ted Sikora, not Henri Compen. I'm Ted Sikora.
I don't know what keeps happening here, guys. Ted Sikora keeps hijacking my thing, but I'm going to have his book for sale tomorrow too, Tap Dance Killer. It's a hardcover book. Normally goes for $30. It's going for $25. Only on Kicking It with Henri and Kevin. Be sure to check it out. Ted was actually supposed to be on the show today, but I completely blew him off because Mel was more important. We had him on, and Ted has been hijacking my show, and it's not cool, and I don't stand for that. So with that being said, I will see you guys next time, and Ted Sikora will most likely be the guest. And until that time comes, onward to victory.